So remember, we're using the daily life circumstances to be the starting point for the condition of your life as it's making itself known to you. You're making yourself known to you. And the injunction that's always been with us from the beginning in the Western tradition is to know yourself, to find a way to know yourself. And what we do is we know ourselves through the difficulties that we have encountered in this life. Because these difficulties that we've encountered, we've engendered. So there is a mutual participation between us and what the circumstances are that offends us or disturbs us or distracts us or distresses us. It's an ongoing interaction between us. Most of the time, by and large, it's going on like that. So you have to be frank and honest with yourself to ask yourself what it is in your belief system, in your conceptions, what have you brought into birth? What have I born here? And not to be afraid of that, because you're really then investigating yourself. And in the self-investigation, it becomes rather easy to find out what it is that you have been creating, and then to shift it and to turn it around to its opposite. So we say it, see it, feel it, sense it, and jut the arm out. Do it for the 21-day period with the book, that is, with the little notebook. Write it out for 21 days. At the end of 21 days, if there is a significance that you're aware of a shift in your life, things have begun to happen, changes have taken place vis-a-vis your relationship to the external world, vis-a-vis your relationship to yourself, things have turned around for you. There's been a shift, a turning around, and you are living in a different way. You can stop. There's no need to continue because you've already established a new pattern. We're talking about a pattern that's changing in your life. We're changing the pattern of life. If you find that it hasn't happened according to how you have felt comfortable with, or you feel you need to continue, you go on and do it. The book is not necessary after the 21 days, really. But continue doing this practice, and some people I know just do it endlessly. They may just do it as a matter of course throughout their lives. So you can use it as you see fit, bring it to bear as you wish, and remember, and not to be daunted by the resistance that may come to using it. Because there's always the skeptic in us, there's always the doubter. We're going to learn more about that as we go on with the process of yes or no. And the disemergency state, there's always the doubter that comes to bear that says this is too easy, it's too simple, I don't want to change my circumstances, I'm living in this familiar way, I'm happy with this, I don't trust it, I don't want to shift, I'm afraid, and many other things that come up as elements of doubt to stop us and impede us from moving on in this work. Because I've asked you to put a few seconds into your life, this seems to be something that we tend to forget. Remember that we're talking about remembering. We're talking about putting ourselves together again. What's the opposite of remember? To forget. And the way life is constructed in our time-space reality is on the basis of making us forget ourselves. We want to remember ourselves and to reverse this forgetting that we're asked to indulge in all through our life together, so we become hypnotized, self-hypnotized, walk around in a somnambulistic state, be half asleep, and so on. So when we forget, we sleep. And when we forget and we sleep, that then leads us to the next state, the culmination of forgetting and sleeping, which is death. If we remember, we become awake. And when we become awake, we live. Forgetting, remembering. Remember stops forgetting. Awakening overcomes sleeping. Living overcomes death. So you see, there's a logic to this that allows you to live and fulfills that injunction that I said earlier, at every moment I set before you, life or death, and good or evil, so that you can choose to remain in life constantly. By the way, during the course of the day, as you meet these circumstances, because habitually in your life pattern, you're going to meet the circumstances that are going to arouse these future-oriented thoughts, these anxieties, these worries, these fears, all these distressing feelings which are always about the future or about the past, regret and guilt, the feelings that are coming that are always about somewhere else but now. All the distressing feelings are attached to these grammatical constructions that lead us to ways of thinking and ways of constructing our relationship to reality, which are not true. The feelings are real. What the feelings are about, the content they're attached to, are not true. So what happens is during the day, you get into the habitual pattern. You have a busy day, you're in your habitual relationship, your habitual action, and you come across thoughts that are coming through or stimuli that are coming to reawaken, which is paradoxical in a way, to reawaken the old habitual belief that things are going to be terrible in some way or another. And then a few minutes later, oh, I forgot. Now I remember. In other words, you remember that you forgot. And when you remember that you forgot, you invoke the system. So we're really allowing ourselves to become our own healers, to become our own healthcare professionals, that we have the process available to us. And one person who did this work, who had a dizziness that she felt was 90% of her way of functioning in the everyday life, by doing this, she reduced it down to 30% in her own estimation within a 21-day period. So social relationships have changed, relationships that were discordant. One of the students had quite an adverse relationship to her two daughters. And in doing this work for the first time in her adult life, that is with the daughters being adult, in her adult life, she began to establish a cordial relationship with the two of them. This was quite startling to her, but nonetheless, an actuality that took place in her life, that the relationships changed. You change, and the world around you begins to change, because everything that's going on in you is starting from inside. And the war that's taking place in you is reflected in the war that's taking place outside of us. This war that's going on, these couple of wars that we're involved in now, are reflections of the war that's going on internally within the members of our society here. So we're at war with ourselves, and we're trying to establish peaceful relations with ourselves. We're trying to establish a coming together in wholeness, and the lion lying down with the lamb within us, beating our own swords into plowshares, and not knowing war anymore within ourselves. We have to start taking care of the war that's going on in us. The eternal battle that's been going on through the conditioning that we've been subjected to since early childhood, the earliest childhood, which is sought to make us feel at odds with